In this video, we're diving into the 3 most common mistakes that I see people make with the Mediterranean diet as a medical doctor and nutrition expert. And quite honestly, some of these are really innocent mistakes, but you really don't want to be making them if you're trying to apply the healthiest and most evidence-based diet known, which is the Mediterranean diet. And let me tell you, the mistake in first place is so common that most people don't even realize they're making it. Hey, I'm Dr. Anna, and here you're gonna learn how to master your health. Let's dive right in. In third place, we have the mistake of assuming that the Mediterranean diet requires you to eat fish or seafood. Now, let's talk about why this is a mistake that people are making. Yes, the Mediterranean diet is really famous for its inclusion of a lot of fish and seafood, which are really healthy sources of protein and other healthy fats like omega-3 fatty acids in our diet. And it's part of what gives the Mediterranean diet so much health benefit. But it's no surprise that these things are included in abundance in a diet that comes from a region of the world surrounded by a huge sea. It's just what people had available to eat if they were living around the Mediterranean. But I am here to tell you that if you really want to reap these health benefits of the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle, you don't have to eat fish or seafood. And if you're wondering exactly how to do this, I have a great video for you up here where I talk about how to approach the Mediterranean diet by eliminating fish or seafood, because maybe you have an allergy, you don't like it, or you're worried about heavy metal poisoning. And if this video is working for you so far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It just helps me get this information out to more people who really deserve it. And it'd also be great if you joined our community. We have a group of amazing, like-minded individuals who are really committed to their health. We share recipe ideas and meal ideas in the comment section, so be sure not to miss those. Okay, what's the second most common mistake that I see people make when it comes to approaching the Mediterranean way of eating? Well, it's assuming that the Mediterranean diet is just about diet, and nothing could be more false. The truth of the matter is, the Mediterranean diet is so healthy because it encompasses an entire way of living life and an entire approach to healthy living. Yes, it is often called the Mediterranean diet, but I can tell you that a lot of people who are experts argue that a better terminology might be Mediterranean lifestyle, Mediterranean way of life, or Mediterranean way of living, because it encompasses the food, the way we approach food, so that's slower meals, social meals, including lots of exercise and movement in your life, and making sure you stop and smell the roses sometimes and just take time to enjoy. The beauty of the Mediterranean cultures is that they really know how to prioritize their wellness and well-being. And that is something that a lot of us need to keep in mind as we're living in this very fast-paced modern world. Now, for more about all of that, I have a huge guide that talks about the different pillars of the Mediterranean diet. It's a really awesome, comprehensive deep dive. So if you're interested, you can check out that video. Okay, so we're about to reveal the most common mistake that I see people making when it comes to approaching the Mediterranean lifestyle and diet. And this is actually a mistake that I see a lot of people make regardless of diet type or label. So whether it's the Mediterranean diet or some other way of healthy eating. And this is to approach healthy eating and a healthy diet by just focusing on healthy carbohydrate or healthy fat sources. And this is a trap a lot of people fall into when it comes to the Mediterranean diet. They forget about eating enough protein. Now, let's break this down for a second. Yes, the Mediterranean diet is rooted in a really balanced plant-based diet. So the bulk of the diet should be plant foods. This will include vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, and nuts and seeds. And yes, olive oil is one of the most abundant oils eaten in this diet, and it's eaten in abundance. So in the Mediterranean diet, we really shouldn't be shy to include lots of healthy fats. But in the Mediterranean diet, it's not only plants. This is really not meant to be a vegan diet. It absolutely includes animal foods and products. Now, given that soy is not commonly included in traditional Mediterranean recipes because it comes from Asia, a lot of plant-based proteins are usually things that come from soy. So this will be things like tofu or tempeh. But if we're eliminating soy from our thinking in the Mediterranean diet because it is not native to this part of the world, what options does this leave us? So let's break down a hypothetical example to try to think this through. Let's say that somebody wants to start following a Mediterranean approach to eating, but they don't really like fish or seafood, so they're only going to eat that minimally in their diet overall. And then let's say they're a little bit hesitant about eating dairy because it gets so much negative press in the media or on social media. And then what about eggs? Well, some people are still very attached to this now super dated concept and theory that eating a lot of eggs, which have cholesterol in the yolk, is somehow going to increase your cholesterol a lot. And then maybe people are concerned about eating too much meat because there have been research studies that link high amounts of red meat, for example, with high rates of cardiovascular disease, which is absolutely true. And that it's really hard to buy quality cuts of meat if you don't have a lot of funds, or if you're just really thinking about the environment and you're concerned that eating a lot of meat is contributing negatively to all of the environmental change going on. So in this example, we have really eliminated fish and seafood, we've eliminated eggs, dairy, and now meat. What does that exactly leave us as a source of protein? So basically what we've just done is described not really what I would call a Mediterranean approach to eating, but really a vegetarian or a vegan approach. And a lot of people accidentally do this. They focus so much on the plant foods that they're accidentally eating almost a vegan diet at a certain point. But we need to keep in mind our body absolutely needs protein and it needs to have enough. And unfortunately, most people today are not eating enough. So yes, you are going to get protein from things like beans, certain grains like farro or quinoa, and in foods like nuts or seeds. But the challenge is that there's a big difference in the quantity of protein in those foods versus the amount of protein from animal foods or products. For example, egg white is basically pure protein. There's nothing else in there. There's no fat and there's no carbohydrate. But let's talk about a plant-based protein source. We have something like a legume. For the same grams of protein, you need to have so much more quantity of the legume than you would have of the egg white, for example. And that's because plant foods, if they're going to provide protein, are always going to come with other nutrients as well. They're going to provide carbohydrate or fiber, sometimes provide healthy fats, such as in the case of nuts or seeds. They're not going to be pure protein the way an animal food or product can be pure protein. So we need to recognize that if we are choosing to mostly eat plant foods, we need to make sure the quantity of the plant foods that contain protein is enough to get enough protein in our diet overall. And a lot of people struggle with this when it comes to vegetarian or veganism. Now, it's absolutely possible to do this right. So I suggest that you talk to your doctor or even a dietitian who can help you troubleshoot and make sure your diet is meeting your personal needs. Remember, the key to a Mediterranean diet approach to eating is about balance and simplicity. We don't want to be eating too much of one thing and not enough of another. The goal is to eat everything in moderation and in the proportion as it relates to our health and our personal needs. And it's always super trendy to find these extreme forms of diet that are cutting out whole food groups. My personal point of view is that's fine if you want to do that, but I would never argue that that's necessary for everybody to do. This is part of why I love the Mediterranean diet so much. Nothing is entirely cut out of the picture. Focusing on simplicity, basic and simple recipes will help you appreciate the flavor and the enjoyment of eating this way. And that's the Mediterranean way. So at this point, comment and share with us below if you are guilty of any of these mistakes. And don't be shy or worry at all, because these are really innocent mistakes, as I've mentioned before. I'm sure all of us can relate to at least one of these things, or maybe have done this ourselves at one point in time. And we are all here to learn. So now that you know these mistakes and you're ready to avoid them at all costs, but you want to approach the Mediterranean diet in the best way possible, you got to check out my complete guide up here, where I give you tons of meal ideas for every single meal of the day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, even snacks and desserts. Jump on into that video. I'll see you over there.